classic list of gifts is the wedding registry. It's a really clear example of your choices and what you go through in your head when you're making decisions about buying gifts. And I'd be interested to know, like, how do you choose?
At first, I used to ignore the list. I think the first wedding I went to, because I was like, I don't want any of this boring stuff.
Yeah. A lot of this conversation is about how it makes you feel as a gift giver. Is that something that you thought that they ought to like?
Or did you really do it for yourself?
Well, there's a little bit of that. So something you think they like, yes. Something you think they ought to like, yes. Something they like, no, not really. Something I like, yes.
There we go.
Yeah. Which very often happens, doesn't it?
Hello and welcome to Sketchplanations, the podcast, a fortnightly foray into observations and curiosities of the world, inspired by the collection of sketches at sketchplanations.com. I'm engineer and broadcaster Rob Bell, and with me is designer and creator of Sketchplanations John O'Hay, and esteemed entrepreneur and past winner of The Apprentice, Tom Pellereau. Hello.
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 This time, we've picked a sketch and a topic that's wholeheartedly subjective, which doesn't happen that often. The sketch is entitled Picking a Present, and it's based on Jono's thoughts and experience with selecting the perfect gift for someone, proposing that you might get a lot closer by taking some time to consider a few overlapping factors. We'll let Jono explain in a sec. Now, you should be able to see the sketch for this up on your screens now, but if you want to see it in a larger format, as well as exploring sketches on many more topics, then follow the link in the show notes below or head to sketchplanations.com. And if you'd like to get in touch with us concerning anything we talk about in this episode or any of the others, then you can send your emails to
hello@sketchplanations.com.
Thank you, Tommy. And I reckon perhaps more than ever before, this is an episode that I'd really love to hear from our listeners on, because preparing a great present for someone feels amazing when you know you've pulled it off. And I'm totally open to hear whatever tips and hints our listeners have on that. That said, hopefully we'll also be able to give you food for thought in your future present buying too. So, Jono, do you want to talk us through the sketch? Talk us through what we're seeing there, and then we can get into justifying these three present buying factors that you propose and see what stories around presents and gift giving we have amongst us.
Sure. You made it sound a bit more grand, like I'd spent years researching this than it actually was. But you also raised some interesting examples in the little intro there, which maybe we can come back to, because what I was really trying to get here, and so this really simple sketch, pick a present. This is a Venn diagram. I've not done many Venn diagrams. Some people literally have made books solely of like fun Venn diagrams.
They are fun.
Yeah, Venn diagrams is always a fun little thing, especially if you find some interesting things in your circles to overlap. So this was really that you might think that a gift is really about what somebody wants. But I have repeatedly noticed that when buying a gift, it seems to be not solely just about what they want. And so that's what the genesis of this is. And so essentially what I was trying to get across here, whether or not I managed it, was obviously you're trying to find something they like. Right. So you want to get something that people like. So that's one of the circles.
That's number one.
Now, you don't know everything they like. So another one of the circles is something you think that they like. And that may or may not be whatever they actually like. And then there's this sort of curious other one, which is like things which you think are okay to like, or you think they ought to like you like, and you think that they should like. And so that's kind of like the last category. I can't really say it, but I think when we get to some examples, we'll get to that. So the sketch was something you think they ought to like, but I guess what I was really trying to get there is that there's a crossover between something in your values also in when you're choosing presents. And maybe this is not everybody, but I think it's many people. So we'll see how it goes on.
That's so funny you've explained it like that, because there's something you think they ought to like. In my notes here, I put is the most controversial.
Yeah.
And so the idea, Jono, and the idea of Venn diagrams generally is that where these circles overlap in the middle, bang, that's your sweet spot. That's your perfect gift.
Yeah, I think I just drew them more or less equally overlapping, and that's usually not at all the case. And the fun thing about Venn diagrams is, there's really no science to it. You're just like, the sizes of bits that overlap or don't overlap. But yeah, when you've got 3 circles, you can put a beautiful little space in the middle, which is your sweet spot, which is something that they like, something that you thought that they would like, and also something that perhaps fits with your values as well. And if you get all of those right, then it's probably going to be a great present all round.
I'm also very pleased and amazed in some senses, Jono, that you can remember your thought process behind doing this, because from the style of the sketch, I know this is one that you did a long time ago.
Yeah, it's probably like sketch number 10 or something like that. Yeah, I'll probably redo it by the time the podcast comes out, but it literally depends. I drew around probably a circle thing that was on the desk and I made a mistake and I not corrected.
So well done for remembering your motivation, I guess, and what prompted you.
I still think about it. I still think about it. We'll get to some examples. Yeah.
As I said in the intro, I hope our listeners find this useful, because I know I'm going to come out of this conversation. I hope I come out of this conversation feeling that I'm a bit better equipped in my gift buying now, which I'd say I'm okay at. But sometimes if I don't have inspiration, it can be really difficult, I find.
Yeah.
So it's nice to come back to something and go, okay, well, let me ask myself these questions about this, and maybe that'll spur something on.
Yeah, and I should say that this was more of an observation than a prescription, and so I don't propose to be like, here's the guide to buying smart gifts. It was more.
You saying you haven't written a research paper?
Yeah, no, I didn't actually. Yeah.
So before we get into it, can I ask how we all feel we are about buying gifts? Like, would you say you're good gift buyers? Would you say you're particularly inspired gift buyers? How do you feel about it?
Erratic is what I would say.
That probably sums me up as well.
Yeah, sometimes really on it, and you feel like you've done a really good job for somebody, and other times, late, not at all. Didn't consider it. Apologise to everybody who I was, late with gifts, or forgot, or didn't even think to bring a gift, or whatever it was. Yeah. Erratic.
Same with you, Tommy.
Oh yeah. I'm also quite erratic at actually remembering them, and I think the first 2, maybe even 3 Christmases I spent with Sarah. Because that, when you're a kind of new couple, you tend to go away to their folks or your folks. And I think I left them in the flat in London. I think I genuinely might have done it 3 years in a row. Sometimes, and for people I know well, I really enjoy buying presents.
Particularly around Christmas, where there's more than one gift that you're buying and you've got a list of things to buy for different people. If I don't have a really strong inspiration for a gift, I can get quite stressed about it, like, because I don't want to buy a generic kind of piece of tat type thing. I'm loath to do that, and so I get quite stressed about not being inspired. But as you've both said, when you do have that inspiration and you feel like, I've got this, this is great, that feels amazing. I can sometimes, and have in the past, been extremely embarrassed about giving presents, not because I think they're rubbish. There are a couple of examples I have in my mind where I was so pleased with what I'd got as a gift, but I'm just embarrassed at that whole process of giving a gift and then expecting this kind of, oh wow type thing. What I've done in the past is, when I've been to visit some friends and it's a time when I would be giving a gift, I'll save giving the gift right to the end before I'm about to leave, and go, oh, there's this here, yeah, open it in your own time, but then get out of there, so I don't have to be there when the gift's opened. I find it a bit, I don't know, a bit icky, or I have done in the past sometimes.
Why do you find it icky, do you think?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't want to be witness to anything but an exceptional reaction.
Somebody going, oh,
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I failed.
And in particular, I'm thinking gifts with kids, I've given to kids, like, I don't know, godchildren, goddaughters, godsons, that kind of thing, where I know it's a great gift, and in the future they'll like it at some point, but at the time I think it might not have gone down as well as I don't know, a box
And
of plastic.
kids are pretty brutal with that. Like they can be kind of amazed and overwhelmed, and that's what you're hoping for. And they can be like, yeah, just chuck it to one side. It's they're
and I know that emotionally I'd probably be hurt by that.
Yeah.
Even though I know it's just a kid and I'm an adult and I should be able to ride above that. But I know I'd be emotionally hurt, and so I'd rather just not experience it.
You'd have to trip him up later, you know.
Does that make sense?
I think that's a really good example. So that was for those kids, right? If you take that Venn diagram, that was something you think that perhaps they ought to like, or they're probably like in the future. And you thought that they would like it now, but it turned out they didn't.
Yes.
So you weren't in the sweet spot. You were in the bit off the off the top left, where you missed the sweetest spot with the gift. But maybe it will grow on them and move towards the sweet spot over time. I don't know.
One of my favourite ways of giving a gift to somebody is if it's something I've made. For many years, I really enjoyed doing that. I don't have quite as much time at the moment to do that, but when time was on my side, I could go into my workshop and I could make stuff, and I did that quite a bit for my niece and for nephews and for godchildren, but also for adult friends as well. I've made stuff in the past, and sometimes I've given people a gift for no reason, just because I've enjoyed making something that I thought, oh, that would be a nice little creative project, and I could do it for that person. I'll do that, and then utter confusion when the gift has been handed over to them. Go, what's this? And they open up and go, right, wow, okay,
because they weren't expecting.
Because they weren't expecting it, but also it's right. So I'll give you an example. So a very, very good friend of mine, is also a mutual friend of both of yours. We went on a trip together and we had a number of photos from that trip that were quite iconic and stirred really strong memories for all of us. It was a great trip. And one of them was this silhouette of the three of us. I turned that photo into a cross-stitch pattern. And then I cross-stitched, I think there were 4,000 stitches in this picture that I created in cross-stitch. And it took me months to do it. And I did it, and I framed it up really, really nice. And I just handed it to him once as a gift, wrapped. Just thought I went round there for, I don't know, a barbecue or something. And I opened it up and was like, wow, what's this? But I love doing it, and I love giving it because I knew it was funny. You know, our friend would not have expected a cross-stitched picture of something that I'd framed for him to put up on his wall somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, what a brilliant present. Like, is that something that you thought that they ought to like more than they did?
Oh, great. Thank you, John. This is excellent.
Because of all the effort you put in, or because of like the memory, or the fact that you were cross-stitching?
Or did you really do it for yourself?
Well, there's a little bit of that. So something you think they like, yes. Something you think they ought to like, yes. Something they like, no, not really. Something I like, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which very often happens, doesn't it? I mean, there's something about like Christmas shopping where you're walking around the shops and you see something you really like and think, oh, Tom would really like that. But actually, you'd really like that.
Yeah.
But Johnny, you are very good at giving gifts like that, because you and I are quite similar as well. So something that you see that's cool. Jono is brilliant at giving gifts. I regularly receive lovely little,
very, very good
lovely
at giving
little
gifts.
items, and it's like, yeah, that's really cool. But also it's quite easy for the three of us to buy gifts for each other because we're very similar. So if we see something that's cool, it's very likely.
But what I love about Jono's gift giving, in my experience, is that it's often unexpected. Not the fact that there is a gift. I'm talking like birthdays. He's very good at giving you birthday presents, but it's something that you go, wow, what is this? Or like, oh, that's cool. Where's this? And there's always a story, or there's always something behind it. You're like, that's amazing. I'll try that. That looks great.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm sure that I don't nail it all the time, but I think that's a really interesting example, because that's one of the things that made me think about this, which made me do the sketch so long ago. And I actually used to use like getting a gift for people as a design exercise. So I taught some design workshops.
Good.
Because I think it's really interesting, because designing new products is often about finding unmet needs, things that people were doing some way and you didn't really realize you needed this. And then you see this thing and you're like, oh, of course I need that thing. And so you somehow know the people so well that you saw something that they didn't know that they wanted, but you bought it for them and then they did want it. And I think that's like an ideal sort of situation for a gift. You can buy gifts so much more easily for people if you really know them. And the ones you really struggle are the ones where you don't really know enough about the person. And that's just why I think it's an interesting sort of design exercise. Because like if you're going to go buy a good gift for people, first of all, you got to go find out what they want, find out what they like. And then ideally you find something that they didn't even know that they wanted.
Can I give an example of what that has been recently from you, Johnny?
Yeah.
It was a piece of fruit that I'd never seen before or even heard of. I can't even tell you. I can't remember what it was now. But it was amazing seeing it. It was like, what's this? And you told me the name, but I can't remember what it was. Do you remember what it was? It was there are a couple of pieces actually in this lovely little presentation box.
Yeah, it wasn't a Chirimoya, was it? Maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Something like that.
Maybe. Yeah. It was it looked kind of like a mix between an orange, a peach, and an apple. All sorts of. It was cool. It was great. I thought, what is this? So there's a great story with it. And then you get to experience something new for the first time, which is exciting. I loved it. It was great.
Brilliant. I read this somewhere. You often overvalue novelty in gifts. Like something has to be new and surprising. Like it's surprising to get a cross-stitched photo of an experience, right? But it's not necessarily useful. And maybe they loved it. But one good channel for gifts is find stuff that's kind of maybe boring but very useful. Like you're actually going to use this thing every day and go,
that's a tick from me.
This is good. And I remember reading that maybe you should just find something in your life that you found is really useful that you want to use a lot and just go, well, maybe they don't have this. And if you get a lot of value from it, maybe they will too. So Tom, I remember buying you some kitchen scissors.
Yeah. I was going to bring those up.
Were you?
Yeah, they're very good. Yeah.
Well, I remember them being really good kitchen scissors, and every time I looked at them, I was like, "Oh, this is really."
Because why? He was like trying to cut up stuff with pliers or something.
No reason. I just received a pair of scissors from Jono and a note saying these are the best scissors I've ever owned. I thought you'd like them. Happy birthday, or happy Christmas. I can't remember which one. And now because they overlap and they click together, so that you can take them apart and put them in the dishwasher.
Yeah, that's like the main feature, and which is really clever, and I think it's really good. And I get pleasure using these scissors on a really like boring, mundane kind of level of pleasure. But on the other hand, they're really useful. So it's a pretty strange. You don't get that wow when you open the present. You're like, oh, scissors. But on the other hand, maybe you get some ongoing joy. So maybe the boring but useful things is one channel to do.
This was interesting. I was having this conversation with my wife earlier. I was talking that we're coming on here, and she was talking about the difference between a gift that's a surprise versus a gift straight off of a list of nowadays of URLs that they've sent you.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that'll do. Great. She says she wants that, so I know she wants that. I don't even think she wants it. I know she wants that, and it should be in the sweet spot. I think, it should be in the sweet spot with those parameters. But there's no element of surprise to it. It's like, oh, great, you got me what I wanted. Cool.
Well, no, but I think that's a really interesting point because like the research I've seen on gift giving suggests, as I said, that people overvalue the novelty in giving a gift, whereas actually getting something that you've asked for is actually usually seen by the recipients as really valued. But we don't think that they'll value it as much as some novel thing that we find for them.
That's a surprise.
That's a surprise, yeah. But actually, people really appreciate when you buy stuff that they know that they like. Yeah.
I mean, it's in the sweet spot, isn't it, on the diagram?
It is. Well,
when they've sent you a link and you've gone, all right, I'll buy that.
So if they send you 4 links, as 4 different products, and you look at them and you're like, oh, I like that one. That's good. And you're like, don't like that. You're probably not going to buy them the one that you don't think is good.
Yes, good point.
Or like, let's say it's a teenager and they want a vaping device and some cash and something and a book, right? And you're like, I don't approve of them getting into vaping, let's say.
Yes.
So I'm not going to buy that one, even if that is the thing that
they've said they want
they
it.
want it, and they make you happy. And so that for
Good
me
example.
is my like that third one, which is something I sort of think that they ought to like. And I even though they like vaping, and that might make them happy, I'm not going to buy them that.
Yeah.
And I always think this comes to a head sort of on the you mentioned like buying from a list of gifts. Like the classic list of gifts is the wedding registry.
Yes, good point. Great. Yeah.
And it's like a really clear example of your choices and what you go through in your head when you're making decisions about buying gifts. And I'd be interested to know, like, how do you choose on a wedding registry when you're buying gifts for people?
In the past, if there is an option of an item, or also on that list is an experience on the honeymoon, like spa treatments or, I don't know, a boat ride or something where they're going, I'll always go for the experience over the item.
Nice.
At first, I used to ignore the list. I think the first wedding I went to, because I was like, I don't want any of this boring stuff. I'm going to get something, and I've got a really nice salad bowl, quite a sort of decorated one, which I'm pretty certain probably went straight to the charity place for the couple I gave it to. And then sort of from then on, I kind of really realised actually, if people say they want these plates or something, then get the plates, because they've thought quite a long time about these plates, and especially if they want 10 and someone's bought 6 and there's 4 left, it's like, we'll just get the 4 plates. It's like seemingly internally you kind of feel that's the most rubbish gift to give, but at the same time it's clear that they wanted 10 of those plates, so just get them what they want, which is the 10 plates. And
well, it's
maybe be a bit more creative with the card that you give or something. But get them what they wanted.
That's 2 out of 3 on the Venn diagram. Again, it's something you think they like and something they like. But again, it's the something you think they ought to like that doesn't get its box ticked on that one, right?
Well, I don't know. If you were into cooking, you might be really excited about buying them the nice bit of cooking gear that they put on the list. And if you were really sporty and somebody put a little, garden sports thing on their list, you might be inclined to get that because it perhaps reflects a bit of your values and it makes you happy to give something which sort of connects you guys in that way. It's funny. I mean, in a lot of this conversation, that a lot of the thought is about how it makes you feel as a gift giver, because it's funny when you say like, oh, just buy the plates. It feels like a rubbish gift. It's not a rubbish gift because they want the plates, otherwise they wouldn't have put them on there. It's not a rubbish gift, but it doesn't feel great as a gift giver.
There's no joy in it, is there, for the giver? Not
the same. It feels a bit more like
not the same.
Transactional, except is it's just I'll swap my money for your happiness, please. But you don't get that excitement of like, oh, I found you this amazing thing which is uniquely about our relationship together and the things we've been through together in life. And like that feels better as a gift, but it's not about you. Or is it? Maybe it is. Maybe gift giving really is about the giver as well as the recipient.
Now that you've said it and I think back, I will always tend to veer towards the gifts on there that I think I'd enjoy, because I feel like there's a bit more joy in giving that then. I wonder if that is just a subconscious attraction towards those.
No, that's why there's that thing, like if you're into food, it's nice to buy somebody a restaurant experience, rather than the car driving experience if you're not into cars, even though they love cars, or maybe if you're a really good gift giver, you're good enough at putting that aside and you purely focus altruistically on the happiness of the recipient and just do that. I don't know. Yeah.
It's definitely the most interesting of the circles, isn't it? It really is. Something you think they ought to like. It's the one that's prompting the most discussion. I love it.
I want to hear some stories about good and bad gifts. In the hindsight, good and bad, and obviously I'm more interested in the bad ones.
Of course, I'm happy
to go early on that.
Well, so you go, because I thought we'd reference there are good and bad gifts that we've both received and given.
Yeah.
But I thought no one wants to talk about the bad gifts they've been given.
I know, I wasn't
Tommy.
necessarily going to talk about the bad gifts I've received.
No,
although I will come to that one day.
Come on.
The worst gift I have given is when I first started going out with Sarah. Christmas I think came relatively sort of soon, and I got it heroically wrong. In the fact that, and partially because I didn't know her very well at the time, maybe I'll try and use that as an excuse. In the fact that I gave her, and there are women listening to this who just like be throwing stuff at the radio, because I gave her a slow cooker for Christmas. Yeah, but my understanding is that they were quite useful, and that she
in
might
the 1970s.
Like
yes.
Well, exactly.
For housewives in the 1970s.
I was a little bit shocked as to quite how badly it was received and how it continues to come up. That one, I thought they might like, but I failed very dismally.
As an adult, a bad present I bought was this wine, which was in a remarkable bottle, which was shaped like a cockerel. And I've never seen a wine bottle shaped like a cockerel, and I thought that would be quite fun. But it turned out the wine was absolutely awful.
And surprised.
Yeah, which is to nobody's surprise. So,
Chateauneuf de Pape don't serve their...
They don't normally do it in a novelty cockerel-shaped bottle. Yeah, it's funny that. Yeah.
Can I ask you have you got a kind of go-to thank you present for, you've been invited around someone's house for dinner, or I don't know, you're going to go and stay with some friends for a weekend? I have a kind of go-to thank you gift at the moment, and I feel like it changes maybe once every 2 or 3 years.
That's
but
good.
at the moment, what I'm going for, A, it's very middle class, and B, it's probably I think it's happening quite a bit at the moment, like a really nice unknown small brand olive oil in an interesting shaped bottle or with an interesting label.
Nice. Have you bought 10 of them that you can just give the same?
I've not, because
10 different ones.
No, but that's a kind of a good plan. But part of it is I really enjoy going out and looking at them, going, oh, that's quite different, a bit fancy. We'll get that. That's nice.
It's interesting because I did a little bit of research asking a few people about how they choose presents, and one of the things they said is that because you don't want to give tat or like just stock presents for the sake of it, food is always a good one.
A consumable, yeah.
And I suppose food in particular, I mean, fireworks is a consumable in some ways. Maybe fireworks is good. But food is a good one. And they mentioned...
I'm going to start giving that. That's a great idea.
To the 3-year-olds.
Box of fireworks.
No, but she actually mentioned a bit more expensive olive oil than you might buy yourself.
Thank you very much. Yes,
she's
exactly.
Like, that's always a good one because it feels a bit special. You're going to use it, and it's going to make you feel good every time you use it, and you wouldn't buy it yourself.
I have a story about this. I don't know if I've told you this or not, Jono, and it's kind of, how would I describe this? It's, I don't know, disingenuous is the right word. You can tell me what the word is afterwards. It's basically me telling you what a great guy I am through a gift that you never got. Have I told you this about olive oil?
Not sure.
Oh, well, let me tell you then, because then you can see me in a whole new light. So you and I went and did a cool experience a few years ago. We did a swim run down in the south of France, and you start on this island, and on that island there's a monastery where they make a little bit of wine and a little bit of olive oil. I happened to go back to that island probably about 8 months or so, half a year or so after you and I did that race, and I wasn't racing, and I bought some olive oil from that place to give to you at your next birthday. Cut to a few weeks later when I went away with work or something, and my wife just found a bottle of olive oil and opened it and started using it willy-nilly. I was like, whoa. And I came out, what? Why is this olive oil open? Especially because there's the other one, Batuli, or whatever, opened already and only half used. Why have you opened this one? She goes, I found it. I thought it looked nice. Yeah, it does look nice. I bought it for Jono. It was very expensive.
Amazing.
And it has sentimental value.
Oh, mate.
So you never got that gift? Have I told you that before?
That's really...
You didn't just refill it with a bit of
I could have.
I thought that's how the story was going to end. So I was like, oh yeah, I remember
that, Oliver.
I remember that. Give them a shake. It'll be fine.
Wasn't as good as they made out.
Oh, mate, that's really nice. Thank you. Well,
that's all right. You never got it. So.
Well, but I just got all the thought of it, and I think you're a great guy as a result.
That's really why I told you that. That's why I chose to do this sketch in this episode. So I could relay you that story, and you could see me for the true gift giver that I am. Generous gift giver that I am. Hero. Thank you.
So I've got a question. That's what arises. Is there an aspect of the kind of the hunter-gatherer aspect of this, that the guy wants to be the hero, that he's come back to the camp and he's got a lion slayed over his shoulder, and then everyone will be able to eat as a result? Is that a thing about gifts with guys, is that we want to appear with this kind of hugely novel, hugely amazing gift, and that's possibly where we as guys go wrong, in the fact that actually something that's a little bit more useful and boring and on the list is actually much more what's called for.
I've certainly seen that dramatised a few times, the kind of one-upmanship of gift giving, right?
Yeah.
And especially, as you say, amongst males, I think, Tommy, yeah. I don't know as I've ever done that myself or been aware of doing that myself.
I think there's an episode of The Office where they do a Secret Santa, and it's $20 max gift, and I think Michael Scott puts in an iPod as one of the gifts.
Good example of exactly
and
that.
all it makes is, mega awkwardness.
But all he wants is people to see him as the hero, as you say.
Like, what a generous
what a guy.
He's given away this fancy, amazing thing. Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? How, like, if you're giving a gift, there is something, especially if you found a special gift, that you might be excited about the reaction. It is making you happy as a gift giver about what the potential outcome is.
What I do really enjoy about giving gifts is that if you can get it right for that person, something that would be a really bad gift for many people can be perfect for that person.
Well, and that olive oil from the island is a great example, and that's why I think there's that connection of like something. An ideal one is like something that is uniquely about you and them that they also like is a brilliant gift if you can get it. But failing that, buy something off the list.
Yeah,
maybe. Maybe. Tom, to your point about bringing home with a lion on your shoulder, I was thinking as a kid, I just remember like some of the presents, particularly from my dad when he went away, and he'd go to the US sometimes for conferences, and he'd come back and he'd open his suitcase. I was always really excited to be by the suitcase to see what he brought back, and the perfect thing was just a bunch of packs of Reese's chocolate, and I was like, "This is amazing, totally exotic. What a hero!" This guy's
at a time where you couldn't get that in the UK.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. What an amazing dad! He's brought me some chocolate from the airport. Which of course, but I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, and your mum's like, I've had to look after them all week, and you come back. I've done all this work, and you've come back.
Oh God,
with some chocolate bars, which is going to keep them up all night.
Oh man, that is total insight into that moment there, Tommy. Yeah. Oh God, right.
I only know that because I've just done the same. I was in China last week, and I brought some gifts back, and they were mega. And I'm sure Sarah probably thought, been away all week, come back, and you're the hero. And I've had to look after them.
Do you know the line on the shoulder thing, if we want to use that as our symbolic metaphor for this?
Yeah.
I think I did do that one Christmas. It was the first year that I had a job throughout the year, and so I had a little bit more money than I'd ever had before, and I just went nuts on my family. I spent way more than I should have done. I ended up paying for that for a long time, but it just felt good. Oh, I've got a bit of money. Yeah, I'll buy mum that. I'll buy dad this. And but now that I think back at it, it probably was a little bit lying over the shoulder.
That's brilliant.
God, I mean, you just realised that.
So you had to tone it down for future Christmases.
Yes, I did, because that was not sustainable, that level of gift buying. Not on that salary anyway.
one of the things on the dad theme, just really, really quick. My parents basically, if they want something now, they buy it.
Yeah.
So there's always this question like, what do you buy for somebody who's already bought the things that they actually want? And I think that's always an interesting challenge when you're considering presents. The other thing was that he started, so I've got two siblings, buying each of us the same book, or in one case he bought 3 different books, and the idea was that we read it and then you give it to the sibling and you read it.
That's
and you
nice.
do that through the year. And it's sort of this like, it's like dad's reading club. And I think
that's
lovely.
Which is actually really nice, because as siblings, we all read the same book. They're all books where he's done a lot of the something you think they ought to like. You guys don't know about this. You've never read this author. I think you'll really like it, and I think you ought to know about it. So I'm going to pick these books out, and then we all read it together, and we have sort of have an experience because we're all reading it together, and we can talk about it throughout the year and afterwards. And it's a really nice thing to do, actually, and it only costs a few bucks as well.
It's a really nice idea.
But the yield from that only cost, the relatively small cost, the yield is really huge, right? As you say, because it then generates an experience.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Plus, I learned a bit about my dad and things that he thinks are interesting or shaped him. So he's put like books where he's found really fascinating through his life, and he's read, we haven't, and you learn a bit about stuff that he values too. And I think that's quite nice in a present.
Are we all in agreement, though, that our dads are the most difficult people to buy for?
So you struggle.
I struggle because, he's got everything he wants and needs, and he's not one to kind of have extras.
And it's a bit strange to give your dad like cash, isn't it? because most people, if you can't buy something, actually cash is quite appreciated. We underestimate how much people like just getting cash, right? For a nephew or something, it's great. For your dad?
I've just thought of an example of where I've really tried to enforce there's something you think they ought to like on my dad, because I've bought him the same thing twice.
Amazing.
It's a pair of big golf mittens for when it's really cold and he's out playing golf in the winter. He plays golf twice a week, and he plays come rain or shine, whatever the weather. If the course is open, he'll play, and he goes out with the bare minimum. And so he'll play with freezing cold hands, and he doesn't really care how well he plays. So he just likes being out there. And so I bought him these big mittens that you wear between shots that are easy to get on and off. That's the thing, because you've got your golf glove underneath, and it just keeps your hands warm, so you can feel the club. And
I can see that you believe passionately in these
I totally believe in it. And so I bought him some for Christmas, probably a decade ago. And then it was this Christmas when I didn't have much inspiration for him. I thought, do you know what? I know he doesn't use those mittens. He's probably lost them. He doesn't know where they are in the garage anymore.
I'm going to get him those again.
I'm going to buy him another pair. Which
You're
is exactly
going to like
what I
these
did.
or else.
But this time, I bought some that clip onto the handlebars of the buggy. I don't know whether he's used them or not. Probably not. Probably still hasn't used them.
Is it a bit disappointing that he hasn't used them? Maybe a bit sad.
He ought to like this. I just think he'd be better off for them.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
And he's not interested.
He's not interested. He's difficult to buy for.
Rob bought me the bloody mittens again. I tried to get rid of those.
Now that I'm with that, I could probably say I'm probably quite difficult to buy for, because I don't really want that much more than the stuff that I've got and the stuff that I need, which I've got. I've got everything.
That's nice.
Thereabouts.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, there's all these people like agonising over what they're going to get for Rob. It's tricky. Yeah.
No, but then I like surprises, and I like the element of curiosity and interest as well.
So the irony is that a huge proportion of the products I make are given as gifts.
That's a good point. Yeah,
and
I have bought or acquired them via yourself for people, Tom.
Same.
Very possibly, like over 3/4 of them are given as gifts. When we are designing products, we are often designing them as gifts to be the kind of the nicest experience.
Is that right? Knowing that so many of them are bought to be given as gifts, does that affect your business in how you present or how you design that product?
For sure, we have to give the kind of the best experience, and it's easy to use, and the packaging is hugely important in that. And so often, spending the whole year designing things which are gifts.
You're actually like one step removed, like thinking of somebody else's Venn diagram.
Yes.
Putting yourself in the position of somebody buying a gift, thinking about what would make a good gift for somebody.
Yeah.
And having to go, they would really like to give something that's useful, that looks nice, that's priced about right, that's good for them, all sorts of things.
But then I do know people who work for sort of novelty gift companies. I think that is that's a really fun job as well, because often it's for dads, because no one knows what to give to the dads. So you do see a lot. There's a huge amount of novelty gifts are designed for men, and some of them are really, really cool. Some of them are very kind of tacky and standard.
I didn't think about it at first when you brought this up, but I've actually got a book which is, I hope, a pretty good fit for all three Venn circles. It's called Big Ideas, Little Pictures.
Oh, good.
And hopefully it's something you think that they will like, and hopefully it's something that they do like. And also you'd look at it and you think they ought to like this thing. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really good. And so hopefully that would fit in the sweet spot. A lot of the book is very sort of giftable.
It's so
giftable.
giftable.
Hopefully it's the sort of thing you look at and you think, oh, that they'd like that. And you might even do they'd like that more than you think that you'd like that. But that's great, because if you got a gift to give, perfect. That's a problem to solve as well.
And as we've said before about Sketchplanations, and within that including Big Ideas, Little Pictures, Jono's book, there's something for everyone.
So if you've got problems with buying presents coming up, Tom's website's really good, and I've got a book. Rob, anything you're selling?
And I've got a DVD of...
Oh, dear. No, I honestly did not even consider that until Tom, you started talking about the products, but yeah.
You liars. I got both of your memos about, can we do this one? Because I really need to...
Make sure you leave space for this.
I really need to
I
plug
presume
some
this is
stuff.
going out at Christmas, isn't it?
I did think about that. It's a bit of an odd time of year to be doing this, but I saw it. It's quite fun. Any other business? Anything anyone else would like to add before we round off?
I do feel massively unqualified to be talking about this subject at all. Like, occasionally I get it right, but most of the time I don't, or I even forget to get a gift. And I think Sarah will find it quite amusing that I'm doing a podcast about giving gifts.
But that's okay, because we learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
and what doesn't work. So I don't, as I said at the beginning, I don't profess to be given advice with this Venn diagram. It's merely an observation. I do like one of the clearest examples of it for me was like, we talked about it not too long ago, but Calvin and Hobbes, like Calvin always had like these unbelievable letters for Santa. The list, you make your Santa list. And he has one which is it's like he brings basically like a book to his mum, and she's like, "What? This is alphabetized." And he's like, "Yeah, I cross-index the accessories to help out." And she's like, "This says volume 1." He's like, "Yep, atom bomb through grenade launcher." It's so good all the way, and he's got lots on Christmas gifts. But of course, if you're a parent, you're not going to buy him a grenade launcher, which is, I think, that sort of thing. Which is, he'd really like a grenade launcher. You are not going to buy him a grenade launcher. You're going to buy him something you think he ought to like and will be good for him.
Can I round off on a gift that I have in the past reflected on possibly being the greatest gift that I was ever given? As a 7-year-old, for my birthday, my uncle, unrelated uncle, so a friend of my parents, gave me a series of 6 half-hour golf lessons with him. So I was learning to play golf and he was learning to play golf at the same time. So as a 7-year-old, my uncle, this lovely, fun guy, would come and pick me up from school, and we'd go off to the golf club and we'd have our lessons together with, we had different teachers, different golf pros gave us our lessons, and we learned to play golf together. And then at the weekend, my dad would come and play golf with us because he played a bit of golf already. I love golf. I love playing golf. That was my introduction to it. And it was It was something that it was an experience, but it was something that brought me really, really close to my Uncle Ro, who's no longer with us anymore. But in my golf bag to this day, and I've had a few golf bags since then, I still have the birthday card that he gave to me with the voucher inside it for a set of 6 golf lessons.
Wow.
I think that's possibly one of the best presents I was ever given. Yeah, it's lovely.
That's really nice. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, it'd be hard for somebody to do quite as nice a present now because you already know how to play golf and you know how to do all these things. Whereas when you're 7,
yeah,
the world's open, so many new experiences available to you. You know, giving something new is much easier, I suppose. Maybe that's why it's hard to buy for dads. Like done all the things
right.
They wanted to do, they've done. They're not going to do anymore.
No, you're right. Yeah. It's a good. I wonder up to what age you're in that sweet spot to still be able to give something new each time to a youngster.
I mean, your dad doesn't even want to put the mittens on.
Come on, Dad, share my love of warm hands whilst playing golf.
You'll love it.
I feel like I've learned some stuff there, guys. Any obvious takeaways for you from the episode? Hopefully it's of use to our listeners as well to think about gifts if they're stuck.
I've learnt a lot what Jono said about novelty being overrated in terms of when you're giving a gift, and thinking much more about what's useful, or maybe not being worried about something being boring.
I guess what I'd sort of take away is it's quite complicated, isn't it? When there's so many factors involved in the age of the person and how well you know the person, and if you're buying from multiple people and your values and their values and what you can afford, and if you're going to be there when they open it, and whether or not it matters if, I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot going on. But I've not actually ever seen, I've never seen a book which says this is how gift giving works, which is sort of funny in a way, given that we give enormous numbers of gifts. Maybe there is like, this is the ultimate guide to how gifting works, but I've never seen it.
The Sketchplanations manual for gift giving.
Yeah, that would be a good present for people.
Brilliant. Thank you, chaps. That's been another really useful life lesson episode for me, and I'm almost jealous of the next person I get a gift for, because after this I'm obviously going to nail it.
It's going to be amazing.
Once again, thank you all for listening. And as I said at the top of the show, I am very open to your suggestions or tips on gift buying. We can add it in the manual. Stories of good and bad gifts. And stories of good and, as Tommy said, the more interesting, the bad ones. You can send any thoughts or any experiences you have of gift buying or gift receiving to the email address hello@sketchplanations.com, or you can leave us a voice note on the podcast website. And as has been associated with many before now, including Mark Twain, obviously, the quote that knowledge is the greatest gift hopefully rings truer than ever before with this podcast. And for that, dear friends, you are very welcome. Thanks for listening. Until next time, go well, stay well. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you later.
All music on this podcast series is provided by the very talented Frank Cinelli. And you can find many more tracks at frankcinelli.com.